I'd like to introduce our student speaker, Jared Jones. Born in Northampton, Massachusetts, and raised in Claremont, California, Jared is a graduate of Emerson College. He has spent the last 8 years teaching overseas at a number of public and private schools in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. This July, Jared will begin work as a curriculum designer for a chain of schools operating in the poorest neighborhoods in Nairobi, Kenya. He is a master's candidate in the International Education Policy Program. His speech was selected by a panel of faculty, staff, and students. Please join me in welcoming Jared Jones.
By this time tomorrow, I will be a Harvard-certified Master of International Education Policy. All of us will have mastered education. Some of us here will be doctors of education, which is somehow, even more masterful. If someone in the Radcliffe Yard were to have a sudden educational emergency, there is no better prepared crowd in the world. And yet, if you are anything like me, you are leaving the school with more questions than answers. If your experience was like mine, every hill you climbed brought higher hills into view until one day, mid-mountain, here we are, slightly startled, adding fabulous new letters to our names. Masters, though undoubtedly we are, if I were to set up a flip chart here on stage and we together tried to draft a communal definition of the domain and purpose of education, would we measure our time on this basic task in minutes or weeks? Would we ever, together, as masters, be able? What about citizenship, quality education? Beyond the theoretical, the existential questions. Who am I? Who am I from Cambridge to dream up policies and programs that will affect people on the other side of the world? A popular mantra in the development community is that the days of the white man parachuting in to solve the world's problems are long gone. Well, my degree is in international education, and they don't come too much whiter than I am. Maybe at Harvard they do, but the question remains. Who am I to theorize about the real lives of people I'll never meet? An Indian teacher trainer and HGSE alum I heard speak a few months back recounted how, after a highly successful program on exploratory, student-centered learning, one of his students approached him and invited him back to her rural Gujarati school. When they arrived, he was surprised to find 60 barefoot children sitting on the floor around him. A student came up to him with a piece of chalk, and she said, "Can you hear, with these children, teach in the way you taught in your workshop?" He looked around at the children, over at the cracked blackboard, and he realized he couldn't. Could you? And more importantly, much more importantly, could you get out of bed and do it again the next day, and the next, and for the rest of your life? Not a 2-year stint with Teach for America or the Peace Corps, no exit strategy or ladder to climb, every day, motivated and smiling. I couldn't. I get nervous signing up for a cell phone plan. So who am I, after a year at Harvard, to tell a woman of 30 years' experience teaching the children of her own community how to manage her classroom and, in part, her life? Honestly, standing here today, I'm no one. So if not international education policy, then what am I a master of, and what has this been about? In answer to that question, I'd like to share a story from our own class marshal, Rich Bayer. Rich's niece started kindergarten. Sorry, Rich. Rich's niece started kindergarten this past September. She came home from her very first day and excitedly told her parents about the people she'd met, the things she'd learned. As her father tucked her into bed that night, he leaned over and said, "So, sweetheart, you excited to go back to school tomorrow?" She looked up at him with a confused smile and she said, "No, Daddy, I already went to school." Well, how do you explain that one? Not the end of a journey, the introduction, not the last step, the first, that tomorrow is a school day. For me, that's where we are today. With our masters and doctorates still fresh, a year or 8 of learning behind us, we are lying in bed with a choice to make. Was our time here, our day of kindergarten, the sum total of our learning, or the orientation session to something much more meaningful? Have we mastered education, or have we simply taken a step? Here is perhaps the one thing I am a master of. I know that what I know, what I've learned here, is a strong foundation, but it is not a series of solutions. That real answers are contextual and complicated, and they are not written on the back of my Harvard degree, and are not guaranteed by the quality of my education, the purity of my intentions, or the novelty of my approach. For as much as we are rightly encouraged to go out and make our mark, we do not leave the world a better place simply because we leave it different. Innovation is not a synonym for progress any more than development is a synonym for happiness. As educators, our call to action is not what can I make happen, what can I change, but rather what needs to be done. And our accomplishments, if they mean anything at all, will not be measured in the programs we implement, the citations we accumulate, or the influence we wield, but in the dignity, compassion, and opportunity we contribute to the world through the lives we touch. I don't know how to affect widespread change in rural India. I don't know how to best use technology to help inner-city learners in Chicago. I don't know how to most effectively crush the hopes and dreams of those greedy teachers in Wisconsin, their health care. I, and perhaps we, are not masters of knowing, certainly not of pretending to know. If anything, with pride, we are masters of I don't know. I don't know, but I can help you find out. I don't know, but if you teach me, I can teach you too. And for today, for me, that's something to take pride in. And for today, it's enough. Because today was a beginning, and tomorrow is a school day. And I know as we go out, as teachers, educational leaders, policymakers, and program managers, as we listen and are listened to, as we shape and are shaped by the events surrounding us, we will look back at the degrees we receive tomorrow, not as certificates of mastery or as affirmation of our assumptions, but invitations to a lifelong dialogue, to a lifetime of learning no less than we teach, adapting no less than we transform. For as much as the world needs the genius beneath this tent today, for as much as education needs you to lead, it needs more the quiet heroism of practitioners who don't simply proselytize the change they want to see in the world, but live it reflectively and humbly. Today, for me, was the first day of kindergarten, a Monday in early September, and we are all lying in bed with a choice to make that is entirely our own. Tomorrow, as we spread out across the country and the world, as we put to practice what we've learned here, even as we bury ourselves in the important work that lies ahead, I hope to see you all in class, listening openly, questioning incessantly, all of us taking notes as fast and as joyously as our small hands are able. On behalf of the graduating class of 2011, our deepest thanks to the family, friends, faculty, and staff who are here celebrating with us today and who have been there for us on the longer, harder days that led to this one. Thank you.